how we started, I was obsessed with this idea that voice notes in WhatsApp could be used as a podcasting mechanism. I do a lot of work in community radio and with sort of semi-rural communities. And there's, when you look at what podcasting is doing as it's growing, it's sort of growing within a very elite space still, right? So I became obsessed with this idea that, you don't need iTunes, you don't need SoundCloud, you don't need all these things that are quite separate from people that are still listening to the radio in huge numbers, but they're not listening to anything, not really any digital audio. And streaming radio in South Africa hasn't really taken off in the way that people thought it might. So I was obsessed with this idea that, okay, so WhatsApp is this hugely penetrative platform, especially in South Africa. And you can use this mechanism that they've got, this voice note ability to transmit a podcast, essentially. And then this combined with the fact that I get a lot of quite horrendous WhatsApp messages through people that have emigrated from South Africa to the UK. If anyone is aware of, people that emigrate and then they feel that they have to bash the country that they've emigrated from, it's a horrible phenomenon. So I get a lot of, sort of through groups, I get a lot of like horrible crime kind of misinformation on WhatsApp, that everyone within my family group is very upset that certain people are distributing this. So it felt like the combination of this podcast idea on WhatsApp and the fact that WhatsApp is just brimming with this ridiculous amount of content felt like this is something that we could really combine into something exciting. So I went to Africa Check and explained this, and we started talking about how do we get into these areas. Like people were talking about a little bit this morning, that WhatsApp is this closed group, and you want it to work both ways. You want to extract what is in WhatsApp and find out what is upsetting people, essentially, and then you create this radio show around this debunking of these ideas and give it back to them. Because that was the exciting idea. The exciting idea is that you've created this 5-minute radio show that's shareable as a voice note. But then the thing is it also acts as a rebuke, right? So that means if one of your family members sends you something that is then that is actually debunked in the show, you can just forward the show to them, and that's like an explanation to them. So essentially, that's how we sort of started it. And then the combination of working with Africa Check, and then we brought together this idea of putting the show together.
So yeah, sorry, just before Paul plays, he's been too modest. He had this epiphany when he was on a beach in the Bahamas. So, yeah, but I think how is it different from from other work that a lot of you have been doing around WhatsApp? I think let's hear the show and see what we think is a differentiator for it.
It's 3 p.m. on the first Friday of the month, which means you're getting an episode of What's Crap on WhatsApp, the show that debunks all the crap found in your WhatsApp groups. It's brought to you by Africa Check and Volume. I'm Paul McNally from Volume.
And I'm Kate Wilkinson from Africa Check. Today we're debunking 4 viral stories on WhatsApp.
Are criminals handing out key holders with trackers in them?
Did 4 children die when they drank cough syrup mixed with milk?
Will South African prisoners get a bonus when they finish jail?
Is South African actress Charlize Theron a secret ANC funder?
Hundreds of people have sent us viral WhatsApp messages for us to look at, and you could do the same. If you want your family and friends to get this show, give them our new number, 082 709 3527.
That's 082 709 3527. Also, stay tuned until the end of the show for an exciting announcement.
Just a spoiler, we won an award. Okay, Kate, I'm really excited, obviously, for our Charlize Theron story. But what are we looking at first?
Apparently, Paul, criminals are handing out key holders with embedded trackers in them, and then they're following people home.
Okay, this sounds ridiculous and quite elaborate for criminals to do.
It is, and it's also a hoax. It's been debunked a number of times in many different countries, like the UK, Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, and even here in South Africa. The police spokesperson has said that they did not release a warning about this, but she did urge people just to remain vigilant about their safety.
So it's crap then?
Completely crap.
public reaction's been really good, and it's sort of spoken to the fact that we've really hit on something that's very cathartic. And the more that I think about it, the more I think it's got to do with the fact that WhatsApp, because it's personal and a person-to-person kind of communication, you are worried about the fact that the person who sent it to you might believe what they're giving you, right? It's not like a news outlet which feels very distant. Like WhatsApp's, especially if you're in a group and someone sent it to you, you kind of feel this need to kind of a personal connection with how it's being got to you. And that's why you might believe it, but that's also why you feel worried if you don't believe it. And I think what's been encouraging about how people have responded and how many people have, how much people have said they've liked the show is the fact that people are not blindly consuming this content as much as we might think. People are, obviously some people are, but at the same time, there's a good quantity of people that are getting eyeballs on this content and they still realize that it's not true and they want to do something about it. And that's what's been really encouraging.
So yes, we've done 3 shows so far. But we decided to float a trial balloon to see if there's interest. So we sent out the first tweet asking users or anybody who comes across misinformation to forward it to us. Initially, we asked people to tweet it to us, and then almost as an afterthought, we add us on WhatsApp and forward your contributions to us. Within 2 days of that, we already had 300 people adding us to their contact list. And we thought, wait a moment, we actually are onto something here, but we don't know what. So we've been covered by the main media houses, pretty much anyone who is anyone in terms of the media space in South Africa. Next slide. So yeah, pretty much the reporting has been we have the silver bullet for fighting misinformation on WhatsApp. We do not have any such thing. We want to assure you, everyone, we are simply just trying different things to see if anything will work. Pretty much almost like shooting bullets in the dark and hoping something does come down. But yeah, so we've got a lot of media coverage. And also the most important thing, especially for us in fact-checking, is how have the users received it? It's one thing to have coverage in the media, but a lot of people think we are better than sliced bread. But I think a lot of it has been overwhelmingly positive. But I think I want to focus on the long one at the top, and at the very last sentence, this user says, I am sharing your number and website with my contacts each time I debunk a hoax. So how is that for the behavior of change theory and for the potential for scalability? So I think that is pretty much of a gold standard for fact-checking, that we are able to scale what we do, the work we do.
So
yes.
Sorry, go.
Okay, please. The question then is, why did our voice note show strike such a nerve in South Africa? And here's the reason why. Just 2 weeks ago, the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism released their digital news consumption survey, which was of about 75,000 people in 38 countries. And for the first time, South Africa was included. 75,000 is a good sample because pretty much as a fact checker, you want more people who are sampled, and sure, it is an online sample, and that does raise a flag in terms of that there are some people who might be excluded, people who are not online, people in rural areas, but it's pretty much the most recent data we have on news consumption in South Africa. And there were some 2-3 startling statistics about news consumption in South Africa. One is South Africa was the one country that was identified as using WhatsApp more for general purposes than Facebook. So 88% of South Africans use WhatsApp, as opposed to 80% who use Facebook for any general purpose. So that's building a picture. But also, South Africa was the one country of the 38 countries that were sampled where 49% say they use WhatsApp as their primary platform for news consumption and news discussion. So that starts telling you people are actually shifting to using WhatsApp to consume the news. But also 70%, just about pretty much behind just the same amount in Brazil, say they are concerned about their ability to tell fake news or rather false news, misinformation from real news. So then that tells us there is a lot of usage of WhatsApp and there's a lot of concern about the information that is flowing within that channel.
And I don't know if this is true in every country, but in South Africa, you get WhatsApp bundles. So you basically get free WhatsApp. Everything that goes through WhatsApp is free if you pay a set rate. And the providers have it down to about R2 a day. So people buy daily packages to use WhatsApp. And data is incredibly expensive in South Africa in general. So that means if you send audio or video, you don't get calls, but you get audio and video through the WhatsApp platform, and then you've already paid for it for your day with your R2. And you can imagine that in a market which is very poor, and also data is very expensive, this is not something that's going to go away anytime soon.
In fact, one thing one user said was that they simply use their data just to go onto social media. They don't go online to fact check. So this was the slide I was talking about, the concern about how misinformation plays in the internet. South Africa is ranked third here. Just of course, Brazil is a runaway winner on that. But yeah. So yeah, currently we have about 1,500 people on our broadcast list, and this number is growing. We've actually had to go slow on it because we discovered we might promise or rather overpromise because there's a lot of interest in what we're doing. So then we are trying to wrap our head around how is the best way to present this show to much more, a bigger number of people than just the people who've added us to their to their contacts. What we do is we log these messages into themes. I'm going to mention later how we're using this, or rather the import of this, but we've categorized what we are getting in various themes, politics, religion, and so we've been logging in hundreds of messages so far. We have someone who does that every morning, and essentially we are going to see how we can tap this information. I'll give more, some more comments on how we think this is going to be significant, at least for the African continent.
Yeah, and what's exciting is that you can actually see how pervasive something is by the amount of times it's being forwarded to us, right? So if people keep asking us to fact check it, we can get a good barometer of what we actually should include in the show. And it's quite an exciting sort of feedback mechanism on that. So there's some challenges, as you can imagine. Basically, the show is still, by design, it's built into WhatsApp, and the idea is to be an antidote to that, but at the same time, it's also bound by the bubbles that WhatsApp works within. So you're still asking people to share, but obviously people are going to share within their groups, and you need to find different starting points to push the show out on. You can't just keep pushing it out into the same type of people and expecting them to share it among their people. It's never going to break out. So that's the big challenge. I mean, from the media exposure that we've had and from the feedback that we're still in quite a certain subset of South African society. And I think the way that we're going to be able to break out of this is to be able to produce it in a different language. I think that would really be something that would help navigate it through the community radio network that Volume works with. And that would help kind of break it up a little bit. The other things is the restrictions imposed by the platform. Like, WhatsApp wants to be a person-to-person communication tool, and by design, by something like this, if it's a WhatsApp newsletter or if it's a voice note show, this is not a person-to-person communication anymore, right? So it's all very up in the air. Like, I think WhatsApp have said that they're going to do certain things on the 7th of December, which is this very specific date, that might restrict certain things that like certain projects, but we're gonna, and that's something that you just have to navigate. Like at the beginning of this, people talk about if you want to make your own app or if you want to hitch your carriage to something like Facebook or WhatsApp or any other kind of platform. And obviously there's advantages to doing that, but the disadvantages is essentially you are beholden to that they can change certain things and your whole thing disintegrates, right? And that's the nature of getting the advantage of 1.5 billion users that you don't have to scrape around for. They're already using your distribution service. So that's something that we are very aware of and trying to navigate. And also, like Lee said, managing expectations. Yeah, and finally, going forward, I mentioned sort of other languages, but also we're looking at other countries. But also the other thing is and this sort of feeds into this idea of what WhatsApp might restrict, but we want to build a dedicated channel. So that would mean like, essentially it's a number to the user. It still operates like a WhatsApp number, but there's a built-in back-end chatbot. So you're able to then interact with the channel in a way that's much more informative for the user, but also really interesting for us in the fact that you can submit certain claims to the same number. You can categorize it. You can ask for the show in different languages. You can ask for it, if we do different sort of additions. It just creates almost like the best way to think about it is a channel which then you can communicate with, but you're communicating with a bot essentially on WhatsApp. Certain people are doing this. Someone in South Africa is doing it to great success. It helps you manage your subscriptions much better. It manages your flow of users and information about those users. But that's something that we're really looking forward to getting into, especially with now this fund that we've got.
So we have to finish this. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Cool.
Congratulations again.
Thanks so much.